Today we're going to talk about Brycen Hopkins, tight end from Purdue. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all the great content coming from the team over here at RotoHeat.com. Hopkins is 6'5", 245 pounds. In his career at Purdue, he had 130 receptions for 1,945 yards and 16 touchdowns. To note, in 2019, he had 61 receptions, 830 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So definitely 2019 was Brycen's best production in a season at Purdue. For athletic ability, we gave him a 6.4 out of 10. Definitely has good speed for a tight end. There was times, obviously, where you see him caught from behind, but, with the tight end position, that's kind of expected. He can get nice chunk yard plays. We saw that quite a bit on tape from Purdue. He's got that kind of overall nice athletic profile that you want to see from the tight end position. And when things are all said and done after combine week and all that, we expect him to be kind of one of the higher rated tight ends in the class. We expect him probably to fall in the top 3 somewhere. And athletic ability is probably one of the top traits that Hopkins showed us on tape. For toughness, we also gave him a 6.4 out of 10. We definitely saw plenty of snaps where he played kind of the fullback blocker role, where he was kind of leading the rushing attack there. We definitely like that he's willing blocker. From what we saw, I would venture to say he's an above average blocker. Unfortunately, we did see enough whiffs that there's definitely some room to improve, but that's to be expected. He's not the toughest tight end in the class, but he's also, very willing, and that's an important thing. He'll stick his nose in there, and sometimes that ain't going to look good. Sometimes it will. So definitely his toughness is one of those areas that we think he'll do pretty well at, and he's one of the better tight ends in the class because of it. For hands, we gave him a 5.6 out of 10. Definitely an area that we have the most concern about, and a lot of the evaluators mentioned that it was mostly because of just the inconsistency when catching. So sometimes he'll let the ball come into the body, and he does it more than a lot of the other tight ends we've been looking at so far. You see times where he'll go up and attack the ball. So if he can get a little bit more consistent with that, and if he can continue to be good at fighting for the ball in contested situations like we saw some of the time, that'll go a long way for him. I mean, he's one of the tight ends that has one of the nicer skill sets in this draft class, and if he can shore up some of these loose ends like this, that'll go a long way for him to being successful for not only an NFL team but your fantasy team. For Yak, we gave him a 6.3 out of 10. We saw quite a bit on tape where he was very good at fighting through some of those initial arm tacklers, some of those guys that when he's close to the reception point and he turns and starts to make some football moves, he gets through arm tacklers pretty well. He's a tough kid. Like we mentioned, we give him a pretty solid grade for his toughness, and he's willing to fight for extra yards. With his athletic ability, we saw quite a few times where he got some nice chunk plays and definitely got 10 plus yard kind of catches, 15 plus yard kind of catches. So his yak ability is pretty solid. We definitely think that he's got a more than above average ability to gain extra yards after the catch. Our favorite trait about Brycen Hopkins is his route running. We gave him a 6.6 out of 10. We love that he's been moved around the formation. You saw him in bunch formations out wide. He was in the slot. He definitely was lined up at the line of scrimmage, and even as the backfield, in the more traditional fullback type role. He runs smooth, crisp routes. They're very good. You can tell that he's a pretty polished route runner as a tight end. Probably, one of the best in the class, quite honestly. So this is an area where we think, and if you've listened to Rick and the team, route running is big. If you're a good route runner, you'll probably wind up being have the opportunity to be a good player, and not only in NFL but in fantasy. So Hopkins is definitely one of the top ones in the class, if not the top route runner in the class. Overall, we gave him a 6.3 out of 10. Going into the pre-combine season, folks have him as the best tight end, a lot of them, and not necessarily on our team, but in just kind of in the community as a whole. He's an interesting prospect. He's got the skill set, the tool set that you want to see from a tight end. There's definitely a lot to like about his game. There's a little bit of concerns that we made sure that we mentioned. I want to make sure we give an unbiased opinion. You know, we have two of the 8 evaluators that watch all the film. Had some not flattering things to say. One said he looked very average, and one said that there was nothing exciting about him. So definitely keep that in mind as you're evaluating. You know, our 8 evaluators watch all sorts of film from multiple years from these players to put together our profile, and what you're seeing obviously is just kind of a mashup. You know, it's definitely a mashup of film, but he would spend a lot of time talking about these guys and evaluating them and putting them together so we give you as clear a picture as we can currently as of today's date. Obviously, this is pre-combine, but make sure you let us know in the comments below what you think. You know, let us know what you like about Hopkins, what you don't like about Hopkins, and let us know who you want to talk about next. We definitely are continuing to evaluate all these different rookies and putting this content out here for you, but we appreciate you taking your time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Also, right there, playlist. Hit it. Watch the videos. Do it. You want to. Do it.